"It's time you moved out," he said it the way people ask for the salt. Easy, thoughtless, like the sentence weighed nothing. My spoon stopped halfway to my mouth. Steam slipped off the oatmeal and vanished. My hand forgot what hands are for. I looked up. The chair across from me was the kind that remembers who built it. The kitchen knew my footsteps. The cabinets were the fingerprints of years. On the shelf, a ceramic rooster stared like it didn't speak this language, this new grammar where a person can be asked to leave the place they made into a home. At the sink, someone found a reason to run water, studied the soap, studied anything but me. The room said more than the voices did. We've decided. Not a discussion, an announcement. It's not personal came next. This house just isn't practical. Practical slid across the table like a dull knife with a sharp point. Somewhere a blender roared to life. A clock ticked louder than clocks are allowed to tick, and a coffee cup hit wood a little too hard. Ordinary sounds suddenly with edges. I set my spoon down, slow, deliberate. I breathed in the polish and old wood and winters that had already happened here. I tasted birthdays and bad news and good soup. If this was a meeting about my future, it was funny nobody asked me to speak. I could argue, I could plead, I could cry to remind them I was here before anyone could spell the word mortgage. But silence is also an answer, the kind people mistake for surrender. I pushed my chair back and stood. My chest still hummed with shock, but the fog in my head cleared. There are drawers in this house no one else has opened, papers no one else has read, lines no one else knows I'm willing to draw. When this breakfast ends, I'll open them. By tonight, I won't be the only one making announcements. I stayed at the table after the words landed, and I let the room stop moving. This isn't real estate to me. It's a body I grew around myself, ribs of framing skin, of paint, heartbeat in the pipes. I should introduce myself. I'm Mara Whitlow, widow. Mother builder by stubborn necessity. I can still point to the nail heads I set with a borrowed hammer and the baseboards I finger-painted when the brush went missing. If you've ever scrubbed a floor until your shoulders shook, you know a house can become a life you can touch. This kitchen remembers birthdays and flu seasons, and the year we lived off soup so a boy could have a telescope. People will call this a house. I call it proof. The thought steadies me. I look up at the light over the table. The bulb flickers, always has. I make a note in my head, not everything that flickers is failing. Some things are signaling. I stand, time to listen. I step into the hallway, and the years fold back like a measuring tape. Tom, my husband, and I were young and unqualified. We had $2,000, one rusty pickup, and neighbors who worked for beer. The plans lived in our heads. The drawings were pencil ghosts on a feed store receipt. I mixed concrete with a shovel and no shoes. Tom cut studs on sawhorses that wobbled. We signed the land papers on the truck hood, laughing at nothing because we were terrified. The first crib sat in an unfinished hall where sawdust smelled like cinnamon if you squinted your heart. The house didn't come from money, it came from blisters and mercy. In 1974, we poured a foundation without asking if anyone approved. That thought snaps like a line catching tight. I wasn't given this place, I made it hold. The memory doesn't make me sentimental, it makes me certain. If we could raise walls from dirt, I can raise a boundary now. I breathe. The present is waiting. Voices carry differently in a house with history. Later I hear talk in the next room home. Office rental flexibility words that sound responsible and land like eviction notices written in polite ink. Graham, my son, is practical, efficient, always on a call. He doesn't say we don't need you, he says this space isn't working. Sloane, his wife, chooses silence with sharp edges. I recognize the move, keep your hands clean, by letting the idea do the harm. Maybe they think they're modern, optimizing square footage, trimming what no longer fits. Older parents watching this know the trick needs disguised as kindness. My spine warms with something that isn't rage yet. It's the old heat from a Saturday when we framed a wall wrong and took it apart plank by plank. Not working is just code for for we want something else. The subtext is the message. I don't argue, I record. The climax is private as sentence forms. If I am a problem to be solved, I'll solve myself, cleanly. That night, I sit in front of the fireplace that never drew right. Tom meant to fix it. Life was busy. Some things we leave imperfect because they tell the truth. The grate is empty. The room is dim. I pull a blanket over my knees and count the hairline cracks on the mantle we tiled ourselves. I think of my father's voice do the next right thing. Not the loud thing, the right one. Older viewers know that cadence it comes after funerals, diagnoses, and the final check you write to keep someone else's wheels turning. The clock ticks in a room that has heard worse. The decision arrives softly, like a train you felt before you heard it. Tomorrow doesn't need confrontation. It needs a plan. I can feel the house breathing with me. We have done hard things together. The climax of this minute is quiet and firm. I decide to move without moving out. I will keep the home. I will leave the arrangement. Morning edges in. I open the drawer in the nightstand, the one that sticks when it rains. There's the little black ledger, our old expense book. Tom's handwriting, leaning right mine, crowded and tidy. Receipts crumble like dry leaves. Between two yellowed pages rests a document we paid off 22 years ago. The deed, my name, his name, no balloon payment, no fine print, paid in full. If you've ever kept a certificate in a folder for decades, you know the weight on the page is heavier than the paper. It is not nostalgia, it is authority. I sit with it in my lap and let the blood come back to my hands. This is mine, I say out loud, not to argue, but to remind the heir. A person can be humble and still own things. The climax lands like a key. Turning, I am not a guest in this story. If anyone moves anything here, it starts with me. I close the drawer. The house hums agreement. People my age understand the feeling of being slowly shelved useful until you're not. I stand in the doorway and meet the mirror's honesty. The woman looking back isn't frail. She's underused. I run a thumb across a paint drip I never wiped away because it made the trim look like it had a laugh. They forgot who I am, I think, and the thought doesn't bruise at armors. I have lifted sofas, shoveled snow, and held a family's center of gravity with casseroles and prayers. If I could carry grief through tax season and still remember where the spare fuses live, I can carry this too. I am not done. The climax is a vow, spoken to the floor, that knows my weight. I will not be managed. The next minutes won't be about making a scene. They'll be about making a move. Older adults watching don't need fireworks. We need a deadline, a checklist, and a pen that writes the first letter hard. Mine's ready. At dawn, fog hangs low over the yard like a shawl left on a chair. I step onto the porch boards Tom set after dinner once, when we could afford lumber but not patience. They creak in the exact places that say my name. The peach tree stands there stubborn as ever. It still blossoms every spring, though the fruit went bitter after a late frost a decade ago. I learned to make cobbler anyway. Sometimes sweetness needs help. Sometimes it doesn't come back. I wrap a flannel around my shoulders and listen to neighborhood children scoot past a life they'll inherit without asking it questions. The tree is my lesson and my omen bloom anyway, and if what you grow isn't sweet, be honest about it. The climax is a quiet pivot. I nod to the tree like we're on the same page. Then I turn back inside toward the closet shelf with the metal box I haven't touched since the year the heater died. My fingers remember the code before my mind does Tom's birthday. The latch releases with the softest click, the kind that makes you feel you're stepping into the right room. Inside the deed again, insurance policies, a small savings we promised to tap only in emergencies. If you've ever saved a lifeline and never pulled it, you know how both proud and foolish that can feel. Today it isn't foolish. Today it's a tool. I line papers in a neat stack, slide a rubber band around them, and feel the strange relief of being a person with options. Not everyone will understand this, but older adults will. It's easier to endure dismissal when you know you can leave the table. The climax is unmistakable. I decide who to call. Not a lawyer to fight, a friend to plan. The air changes when you commit. The house seems to stand up a little taller with me. I put the box away and walk to the phone. I take down the old address book, the real one soft with years' corners. Rounded by kitchens and church basements. I find Caroline Pratt friend from the days when casseroles traveled in Pyrex, and grief was carried by a carpool. She answers on the third ring with a voice that still tucks a blanket around you. I need your help, I say, quietly. She doesn't ask for why, she asks for how. We talk like women who've read contracts and eulogies. No billboard, no open house, appointments only. People who understand old plaster and slow mornings. She knows exactly 3 families who might. We move at your pace, she says, but we'll move. The climax is a handshake only 2 hearts can hear. We have a plan. I hang up and stand still long enough to feel what just shifted. The room isn't hostile anymore. It's preparing. I fold the note with her name and tuck it under the sugar jar. Tonight I'll need it again. Caroline comes by with a folder and a pen that writes like a good decision. We sit at my kitchen table, the one with the wrench scratch, from a science project gone brave. We write it down, no sign in the yard, no social media, no flippers, no before we even step inside, we'll knock this wall down. A year of living before anyone has permission to tear. One morning alone for goodbye. Older viewers will understand the sanity of ground rules. It's what kept marriages and neighborhoods from fraying. We decide to stage nothing to let the floor creak, and the stair rail tell its own biography. People who love old houses will hear it, Caroline says. The climax is the ink drying on terms that protect the soul of a place. In my chest, a knot loosens. I'm not asking for permission. I'm establishing conditions. When she leaves, the kitchen feels less like a witness and more like a partner. I wash 2 cups and sleep. Morning light lays itself across the hallway drawer. I haven't opened in years. This one doesn't stick. It resists. Inside are envelopes with corners bruised by time. Cancelled checks, receipts. All my just this once promises. I trace the ink-first car when the old one died in a snowstorm. Tuition when interest rates wouldn't stop climbing. A down payment during a layoff nobody wanted to announce. If you've been a parent long enough, you know the math help becomes habit, and habit gets mistaken for supply. I didn't keep these as evidence. I kept them as memory. But today they read like a ledger of invisible load-bearing walls. The climax is a sentence I never thought I'd say without crying somewhere along the way. Giving turned into permission to forget me. I close the drawer gently, the way you tuck in a child who finally sleeps. And then I turn toward my desk, where a yellow pad is waiting for its first list. On the yellow pad, I write 4 words: help, expect, assume, exclude. That's the path we took, and writing it makes the floor feel level again. There's no need to villainize anyone. I just have to refuse the ending they've scripted for me. I think of the older women I know, nurses who outlasted 3 hospital systems teachers who bought their own crayons, grandmothers who kept birthdays straight without a calendar. We all learn the same quiet math. When your usefulness is mistaken for your identity, the minute you stop supplying people, think you've disappeared. I underline the last word. Exclude hard enough to dent the paper underneath. Then I add another arrow and a final word. Emerge. The climax is ignition. A plan has heat now. I cap the pen, slide the pad into my purse, and feel the familiar resolve of 1974 move back into my bones. The next step isn't loud, it's precise. I pick up the phone. Caroline will have buyers to meet. I sit at the kitchen table with a yellow pad and a good pen, the kind that makes you feel like you mean what you write. I list in plain words: bank, storage, trust, keepsakes, call the insurance, book the mover for later, not urgent. I add small things older folks will recognize. Extra tape, a thick marker, a box for the fragile items you can't explain to anyone but yourself. I sketch a simple map of the house and circle trouble spot stairs that nag, outlets that hum, a window that sticks in rain. When life tilts a list, puts it back on its feet. By the second page, my breathing evens out. I don't need drama. I need sequence. Step 1 will lead to step 2. The last line I write is short and solid. I decide the timeline. The page looks like a promise. I tear it free, fold it once, and slide it into my purse. The plan now travels with me. I walk in for tea and run into Sloan perfect ponytail athletic leggings, a smell like eucalyptus, and new rules. She doesn't say you should leave. She says, there's a beautiful place for active seniors, no stairs, housekeeping included. It's wrapped like a gift, but I can see the receipt. This isn't about my safety. It's about square footage she wants to stretch. Older women know this dance. We're offered freedom, right when someone else wants our space. I stir honey into my cup and let her words float. I don't raise my voice. I don't perform a speech. I just ask, who would this be best for? She blinks because the truth doesn't like mirrors. The blender roars. The clock ticks. My tea tastes like clarity. The climax is simple. I choose not to defend my existence in my own kitchen. I rinse my cup, dry it well, and put it back where it belongs. Some days, restraint is the sharpest tool. I try on a different kind of silence, the useful kind. I let the blender announce the mood. I let the cupboard door slam, translate what no one wants to say. I focus on my breath and the soft scrape of my chair legs, the language of restraint. Older adults speak fluently. So much of family life is weather. A front moves in winds shift, and you decide whether to bring in the lawn chairs or let them ride it out. I take note of everything, the tone of we've been talking the way no one asks. How are you? These details are breadcrumbs to a place I don't need to follow anymore. The climax is a private decision. I won't argue with thunder. I'll wait for the sky to clear and move while the ground is dry. I set my mug down without clatter. I can almost hear the house exhale like it understands the plan. Quiet can be decisive. Today, mine is. Caroline arrives with a folder thick enough to matter and thin enough to manage. We talk values, not price tags, no flippers, no demolition speeches, no open concept before the front door even shuts. We'll look for listeners, she says, people who can hear a stare chirp and smile. Older viewers will know that test, who respects the thing they're touching. We agree on private showings appointment. Only no sign in the yard to spook the balance. If you've ever sold a car to someone who actually checked the oil and patted the dash, you know the feeling I'm after. Caroline lists the comps, then closes the folder like a benediction. We'll do this without a parade, she says. The climax is a pen stroke on one line that matters conditions. Not because I'm difficult, but because this place has a spine. We shake hands not like soldiers, but like women who've learned to keep what's worth keeping. The room feels steadier, so do I. The photographer lifts her camera and asks what to highlight. The honest parts, I say, the crack near the mantel, the squeak on the third stair, the way morning light lands on the kitchen floor in a long, forgiving stripe. I don't want a staged stranger. I want the house as it has always been, a place that worked hard and didn't pretend otherwise. Older folks know the trap of glossy pictures you move in and can't find the soul you saw online. We open windows to let the boards breathe. We turn off harsh lights so the lamps can do their gentle job. She frames the ceramic rooster, the worn arm of the chair by the window, the nail hole where a photograph used to live. The climax is a soft click. I feel in my chest, a shot that catches the shine on tired wood and makes it look like gratitude. That's it, I say. That's who we are. She nods. We move on. While she shoots, I drift into the old bedroom with the rocket wallpaper peeling at the corners. It was chosen with sticky hands and a bargain bin smile. I remember the year we bought a second-hand telescope and ate soup and toast for weeks to make it work. Older parents will recognize the math, how love masquerades as budgeting, and the universe fits in a cardboard tube. If your kid believes hard enough. I run my finger along the edge where blue stars meet beige paint. The house doesn't mind the mismatch, neither do I. Sometimes life layers over life and the seams show. That's not failure, that's biography. The climax is small and personal. I decide which things come with me, no matter what. The quilt with the crooked seam, the mug with the hairline crack, the photo of a boy holding a sky in his hands. You can buy new, you can't buy meaning. I close the door gently, like I'm not waking the past. Night rolls in, and I sit with a legal pad and a cup of decaf brave enough to taste like coffee. I write a line across the top, not starting over, starting next. It's a promise older adults understand. You don't erase decades, you edit. I list what next needs fewer stairs. Kinder light a place to set a book down, open, and know no one will move it. I think about a small yard where I can plant 3 things that don't demand applause. I print my name, then write trust beneath it, underlined twice. Not because I'm suspicious, because I'm finally careful with myself. The climax of this minute is the feeling when a plan stops being a cloud and becomes a table you can tap. I write tomorrow's date beside 3 tasks and circle them. Context can make a person invisible. A calendar can make her reappear. I rinse the cup smile at its chip and put it on the counter for morning. The first showing is a pair of 30-somethings with running shoes and renovation verbs. They talk fast about removing walls, raising ceilings, widening doorways like saying the right words. Will make the house forget it did fine without them. I listen with my chin up and my hands calm. They ask about timelines and contractors and how flexible is the seller. I answer with a sentence I wish I'd learned at 40 no. No to gutting, no to rushing, no to treating a home like a stage prop. Older viewers know how expensive a week maybe can get. They leave with polite smiles and plans for somewhere else. The climax is quiet satisfaction I didn't justify or over-explain. I didn't sell my history for a handshake. I close the door behind them and feel the house settle like a dog who heard me choose well. Caroline's text arrives a minute later. Right call. I text back a single word that tastes right. Next, the second couple arrives with a tablet full of inspiration photos. Glass walls, white floors, a kitchen so bright it could interrogate you. Their enthusiasm is sincere, just aimed at a different address. They compliment the bones while planning surgery. I pour them water and let them finish their dream. Then I tell the truth. This place needs a family, not a facelift. Older adults will get it. Some houses want applause, some want gratitude. I explain the conditions again, and their smiles soften into understanding. They thank me for my time and take the tablet out into the daylight where it belongs. The climax is the relief that follows a clean no. Not everything is meant for us, and that's a kindness on both sides. Caroline marks our list with another line through the obvious, not the right fit. I stand at the window and watch the street go by. Somewhere the right footsteps are already on their way here. Before the next showing, I bake banana bread with walnuts and a stubborn streak. Older viewers will smell it already, butter, sugar, and a memory you can slice. I put the loaf on the counter to cool and open a window, just enough to let the street know this is a home, not a transaction. Food says what listing sheets can't. Someone cared here, someone will again. I set out my blue plates, the ones that only came down for holidays or hard days. I wipe the counter, not to hide where, but to honor it. Caroline texts 10 minutes out. I pour water into a pitcher and add 2 lemon slices that look like little suns. The climax is the room itself taking a breath. The house smells like its best self. I'm not staging. I'm telling the truth with cinnamon. When the doorbell rings, the sound feels like a promise. Kept to the walls, to myself, to the life that's about to keep moving. They step in late 50s, steady eyes, shoes that don't pretend to be younger than they are. Elaine runs her fingertips along the stair rail, the way you greet a friend you once trusted with a secret. Martin asks about morning sun and whether the porch gets a breeze. No talk of tearing, only talk of living. If you've ever watched someone handle your grandmother's dish without flinching, you know what I felt. We drink water on the blue plate's day off. Elaine says softly, "Some things bloom even if the fruit goes bitter." I see the peach tree in my mind and nod. The climax is recognition. They aren't auditioning for the house, they're listening to it. The room feels like church, not formal, but respectful. Caroline's glance meets mine. We both know when a key finally finds the right lock. I offer them a warm slice of banana bread. They accept like people who understand it's more than dessert. We sit at the table that's heard both laughter and disappointment, and lay out the only terms that matter live here a year before any big changes. No walls knocked down while the paint still remembers our hands. And one morning, just one, when I come back after closing to say goodbye alone. Older adults will recognize the request. Grief needs privacy and time. Elaine nods right away. Martin adds, "We'll take care of it." As it is, they don't flinch at conditions because they weren't here to conquer anything. The climax is agreement, not the legal kind that will come, but the moral kind you feel in your shoulders. Caroline writes the notes in careful letters, like she's filling out a birth certificate. We shake hands not to seal a deal, but to share a promise. When they leave, the house is quieter, but not empty. It's waiting, so am I. The next sound I expect to hear is a pen on paper, and my name steady beside it. At the table, I state my two conditions as plainly as a prayer. 1 year of living before anyone swings a hammer. And one morning, just one, when I can come back alone and say goodbye without an audience. It isn't about control. It's about respect for a life that took decades to build. Older adults will understand rituals make partings humane. Elaine nods at once. Martin meets my eyes and says, "We can do that." The relief arrives like a warm coat on a cold day. I feel the house soften around us as if the walls approve. Caroline writes the terms in careful script letters that won't smudge. No drama, no speeches, just lines that protect a soul. I sign my name beside the note and slide the paper back. The deal isn't done, but the dignity is. The mini climax lands in my chest. The future has rules now, and they are mine. After they leave, Caroline stays a minute longer. She closes the folder and studies my face the way old friends read weather. "You okay?" she asks low. It's a rare question in this house. I answer honestly, I am. She nods like a nurse who trusts your pulse more than your words. We move to logistics timelines, quiet. Showing's the courier who can carry papers without leaving gossip on the porch. But beneath the business, something more important happens. I feel seen. Not indulged, not negotiated, seen. If you've ever sat across from someone who understood your reasons without needing the whole autobiography, you know the medicine of that moment. We stand in the entryway where we've hugged after births and funerals, and we do not hug now. We don't need to. "I'll call when escrow is ready," she says, "and I'll call when I'm ready," I answer, the mini climax. I'm not being handled anymore. I'm being heard. The escrow office hums with copy machines and fluorescent honesty. Danielle Ruiz slides documents across the desk in a neat choreography explaining each page without talking down. My name appears again and again, steady, unshaken. Older adults know this feeling. The room is too cold, the pen is too shiny, and still your hand does not tremble. We initial here, sign there, confirm the terms we already agreed to in spirit. Danielle pauses on the wire instructions. I nod. This isn't a whim. It's the conclusion of a long conversation I've had with myself. When the last page turns, the air shifts. Paper can do that. Congratulations, she says, not the cheerleader kind, the respectful kind. I slide the folder into my bag and thank her by name. The mini climax is simple and strong. My signature turned weather. The front that hung over my house for months moves on. From escrow, I go straight to the bank. Nadine Park greets me with that steady grace women in charge carry like a cardigan. We sit in her office and build a living trust, clear, quiet, and hard to pry into without my say-so. Older viewers will appreciate this part. It isn't paranoia. It's peace of mind you can notarize. I make myself trustee and beneficiary. Then add a secondary name, Ellie. She's the one who still knocks, still asks if I've eaten, still listens with her whole face. Nadine walks me through protection's successors and the kind of language that keeps the future tidy. The forms look complicated, but the feeling isn't. It's relief you can file. You're taking care of yourself, she says. It's about time. I sign one last page, and she tucks everything into a proper folder. The mini climax. If anyone wonders who guarded my ending, the answer will be written down. On the way home, I think about Ellie's small hands cracking eggs too hard and laughing when shells slip into the bowl. She always circles back with a question older people rarely get. Are you okay? Not do you need anything as a formality. Are you okay? The kind that waits for an answer. I decide she'll get a letter one day, not about money, about courage. The kind that doesn't shout, just packs a bag and locks a door with kindness. I picture her knock at my cottage and the way light will fall across the floor like a welcome mat. In a family where calendars run the feelings she kept, the clock that matters attention. The mini climax is private. I promise her a different inheritance. Not a house, a story of a woman who remembered her own name in time. That evening, I pull a chair to the living room window and take down the old curtains. Dust turns gold in the last light, and the room answers with a soft, hollow echo. The voice empty rooms use. Older adults know that sound. It's not sad or happy. It's honest. I fold the fabric the way my mother taught me, corners to corners, hands steady, nothing sloppy. The glass shows my reflection without apology. No makeup, no performance. Just a woman ready to finish what she started. The rod comes down with a tiny squeak I'll miss later. I set the hardware in a labeled bag because small order in a storm is its own kind of courage. The mini climax lands in my palms. The room is bare now, and somehow more itself. So am I. I lay 3 boxes on the dining table, keep, donate, free. Older folks recognize the ritual. I start with the things that speak when no one else is in the room. Tom's fishing journal with water-swollen pages. My mother's quilt with the crooked seam I never repaired because imperfection felt like a signature. The chipped teacup that turns tea into memory. Each piece goes in to keep like a vote counted aloud. I handle a stack of photos and feel both tug and release. Love does not require storage fees. I tuck one picture of a gap-toothed boy into a smaller envelope and slide it between sweaters in my suitcase. Nobody else needs to see that one but me. The mini climax. I choose weight I can carry and set down what I cannot without guilt. A thick black marker turns decisions into labels. Keep fragile like me. Donate useful. Free, let it travel. I write in big, honest letters. You can read from the garage, the kind older eyes appreciate. On the kitchen counter, I tape shut a box that holds recipe cards smudged by butter and flour and grief. I secure the corners with an extra strip, not because the tape will fail, but because my care won't. I inventory as I go, a small kindness to my future self. If you've ever moved after a loss, you know this part is medicine. The order you create becomes a path forward. The house seems to help offering a quiet rhythm to the work. The mini climax is the last cap of the marker decisions made written down, carried out. While talk upstairs drifts into remodel timelines and mood boards I was never invited to see, I walk the perimeter of the kitchen one more time. I set a single envelope on the table. Inside Charlotte's contact information, and the signed agreement that says what's done is done. No note, no speech, paper will speak just fine. Older adults will know this move clarity without a fight. It's amazing how light a decision can be when you stop trying to carry everyone else's reaction. I smooth the envelope with my hand, the way you comb a child's hair before school. It looks small, but it weighs enough to tilt a life. The mini climax is the soft thud it makes when I tap it into place. Tomorrow, someone will find it. Tonight, I keep moving. At the front door, I hold the 3 keys I've carried like talismans front back, and the one Tom cut wrong the first time that still somehow works. Metal is cold and honest. I thread them onto a ring, close my hand around the set, and then feed each one through the mail slot. They clink on the floor inside like punctuation, period, full stop. Older viewers will hear that sound. It's the end of a chapter you wrote yourself. My palm feels empty in the best way, like when you finally release a suitcase handle after a long walk. I stand for one breath longer than comfort, and then turn away. The mini climax lands in the quiet porch air. I have nothing left to return. The taxi idles at the curb, engine low, driver neutral. I place my bags in the trunk, settle into the back seat, and speak an address I've kept in my pocket for weeks. The car pulls away, the window offers me one last frame of the house, and I practice a new discipline. I do not look, not because I'm hard, because I'm done. Older adults will know this muscle. It grows when you leave the hospital or the lawyer's office or the kitchen table where someone forgot your name. The street lights pass like steady beats. I breathe with them. The driver asks if I want the radio on. No, thank you. I want to hear my own life. The mini climax is a simple sentence in my head. I didn't leave empty. I left whole. The inn off Route 18 is plain in a way that tells the truth. 2 stories thin carpet, a front desk clerk who hands over a key without curiosity. My room smells like clean sheets and second chances. I set my suitcase in the corner, place my phone face down, and sit on the edge of the bed long enough to feel the quiet settle. Older adults know the difference between loneliness and space. This is the latter. I shower, fold my clothes over a chair, and slide between cool sheets that don't remember anyone else. Sleep comes fast, like a curtain dropping when the play finally sticks the landing. No dreams, no rehearsals, just rest that goes all the way to the bottom. The mini climax is morning itself. I wake before the alarm light already kind at the window and realize something I haven't felt in years. I am rested enough to begin. By afternoon, my phone lights up like a pinball machine. Why would you do this? Is this a joke? Call me now. I set it face down and open a bottle we saved in Naples in '98 for a celebration that never picked a date. It tastes like a kept promise. I let the messages roll in without auditioning for any of them. Older adults know this reflex, answering fast to keep the peace. Not today. I'm learning a new skill, letting people feel what they feel without carrying it for them. I pour a second glass and sit by the window of the little inn, watching trucks nose past the gas station like they've got somewhere benign to be. The screen brightens again, longer text, more urgency. I turn the volume off, but not my heart. The mini climax is quiet and deliberate. I choose one voice to listen to, tonight mine. In the morning, Caroline calls from a number that never wastes time. It's done, she says. Not giddy, not grim, just finished. The funds cleared the paperwork, recorded the promises written where promises can't drift. I sit on the bedspread with the phone warm in my hand and realize stillness isn't punishment. It's oxygen. For years, I mistook noise for connection. Group threads open tabs, conversations that never landed. Today, silence sits beside me like a decent neighbor. Older adults will recognize this, the quiet. After the verdict, when the body stops bracing. Do you want me to stay close? Caroline asks. I'm okay, I say. Meaning it, we hang up without ceremony. A small bird lands on the sill and tilts its head like it's checking attendance. The mini climax, I breathe all the way down, and nothing in me apologizes for the air I use. Per the contract, I have one final morning in the house alone. The new owners left the door unlatched. I step inside as the sun lifts over the roof lines, and the air has a different temperature, same walls, new weather. It smells clean, not empty. I move slowly, palm, skimming the hall shoes soft on floors that learned my stride. I stand by the front window where holidays used to line up like chairs and let the echo tell me the truth. Love lived here and love left on its feet. Older adults know the value of leave-takings that aren't rushed. I touch the spot where a picture once hung the nail hole, a tiny period after a long sentence. The mini climax is a courtesy I offer myself. I am not visiting a loss. I am closing a chapter I wrote. I don't expect anyone, but there he is, Graham sitting on the living room floor, like a man who missed the last step. Legs bent, phone face down, face pale, in the way men get when control packs a suitcase. For a second, I see the boy who fell asleep under a quilt, still warm from the dryer. He scrambles to stand, words tripping. "You're here." "I am." The house swallows our voices and hands them back, stripped of excuses. Older parents will understand the ache when the child you raised becomes a man you don't recognize and then suddenly does. The rug is gone, but the indentations remain where the table feet sat for years. Proof that weight leaves a map. The mini climax is a breath we share without saying so. We are for once in the same room of the truth. He starts with offense dressed as confusion. "You sold it without telling us. I don't raise my volume." It wasn't yours to be told. The sentence lands between us and decides not to move. He looks at the window like it might help. We had plans. So did I. Older viewers will recognize the script. Someone mistakes access for ownership, assuming your life is a shared calendar. I don't list receipts or sacrifices. I don't turn my history into a closing argument. I simply refuse the premise. He exhales like he's trying to put a fire out with his breath. The mini climax is a boundary spoken in plain English. Information is not owed. Respect is. He reaches for the soft defense. We were trying to help. I tilt my head. You offered an exit, not a room. The words are small and surgical. They cut what needs cutting without taking any more than necessary. He blinks and I can see him run the tape backward, where he could have set a chair for me and chose a doorway instead. Older adults know that grief not being asked to leave being managed toward it. My hands don't shake. My voice doesn't crack. I don't need anger to be strong. The mini climax is the look on his face when he understands the difference. It's the first useful silence we've shared in months. He tries again. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I nod. "You didn't mean anything. That's the problem." Kindness without intention turns cruel in slow motion. I watch the sentence reach him like weather, first wind, then rain. He sits back down, elbows on knees, and stares at his hands like they forgot their job. I take a seat on the bare floor a few feet away. If you've ever had to teach someone how you should have been treated, you know this is the slowest class. I don't rescue him from the lesson. The mini climax, he doesn't argue. For once, he just listens. I rise and walk into the kitchen for the last time. The counter still remembers hot pies. The floor still holds the faint dimples from the table legs. Proof something stood and did its work. I put my palm flat where I rolled dough and patted worry into quiet. In my mind, Tom is here, not as a ghost, but as approval. I can feel in my shoulders. If you've ever finished a job your partner started, you know the mix of pride and ache. "We did fine," I whisper, and I mean both of us. The house and me. The mini climax is an inventory I take with my hands, the work held. I can go. I walk back through the living room, past Graham, toward the door. I left with grace. I say, hand on the knob. "You gave me no choice, but I took mine. It isn't a dagger, it's a key." The line turns in the lock between us and opens something that needed air. He doesn't stop me. He doesn't apologize either. Not yet. Older adults will recognize this moment. You close your own scene lights down, no curtain call. I step outside and pull the door shut behind me. The mini climax is the click itself, firm, clean final. Back at the inn, the October wind has a bite that would have complained me into a heavier coat last year. Today, it wakes me up without making a case. I wrap Tom's old sweater tighter and walk to the diner, the kind with coffee that tries, and pancakes that don't pretend. The waitress warms the mug without asking. I tip before I leave the table, a habit older folks will recognize. Pay for kindness when you receive it. On the way back, a leaf scrapes the sidewalk like a match that never quite lights. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I let it. The mini climax is a sentence I couldn't have said 3 months ago. I like my own company. 3 days pass with only the ordinary sounds: showers, doors, shoes, a television murmuring to a wall. No one is being punished, I'm practicing space. In the quiet, I hear the hum of relief under everything. Like a refrigerator you forget to notice until it stops. I make a small list and finish it fresh pillowcases. Groceries for one, a book that reads like a friend who doesn't need you to talk. Older adults know this medicine competence in small doses applied daily. On the third night, I sleep across the whole bed diagonally just to remember I can. The mini climax is a laugh I didn't expect out loud and soft at my own diagonally ridiculous self. At 8:10 a.m., the phone rings. A decent hour, progress already. I answer. "Why didn't you trust me?" he asks, voice sanded down from the earlier storms. I hold the line, then say the truth with no costume. "You asked me to move out of my own home." The words don't rise, they settle. Something unclenches on his end. Traffic breathes through his speaker. For once, he doesn't rush to fill the space. Older adults will feel that hinge when conversation stops being defense and becomes repair. "I'm listening," he says. The mini climax is a single choice I make while the light climbs the wall. I believe him enough to keep talking. That afternoon, I meet Ruth Calder, the landlord, with the nurse's hands and a calm that says she's seen worse and kept going. The cottage is simple, one bedroom, a square of sunlight on the kitchen floor, a porch just big enough for a chair and a mug. "This place needs someone like you," Ruth says, pressing the keys into my palm as if passing on a quiet job. Older adults will recognize the relief, no stairs daring your knees, no hallway long enough to lose yourself in. The fridge hums its steady hymn, the windows open without argument. I walk through touching light switches like I'm learning a new language. Click hello. Click your home. Ruth points out the fuse box and the good neighbor who'll bring tomatoes in July. "Take your time," she says at the door. The mini climax is the lock turning on my first try. The key fits, so do I. I unpack like a person claiming ground, not visiting it. Tom's flannel hangs on the hook by the door, soft and honest. The chipped teacup lives by the sink, ready for mornings that need a steady handle. A photo of a gap-toothed boy goes into a drawer, not hidden, protected. Older viewers know this dance. You put weight where it won't tip you over. I stack plates, too high set the salt where my hand will remember it in the dark and drape my mother's quilt across the chair, like a blessing that knows its job. I label a bin for tools, because a woman who built a life can fix a hinge. By dusk, the room looks like it was waiting for me, the way a chair waits for a familiar back. The mini climax is small and complete. I boil water, pour tea, and take the first sip in a home that doesn't second-guess me. The next morning, I sign up for the library's reading circle and stop at the co-op where apples wear their own freckles. Nobody asks who I'm shopping for. I buy oatmeal because sometimes we redeem scenes by repeating them on our terms. Older adults will understand after years of asking, "Does this work for everyone I try? Does this work for me?" The librarian slides a schedule across the counter and says we keep the kettle on for the Wednesday group, a sentence that feels like a chair being pulled out. I stroll home slower than the old me would allow, noticing a hydrangea that forgot it's October and bloomed anyway. The mini climax arrives at my front step. I open the door and realize I didn't rehearse any apologies on the walk back. A day can be ordinary and still be brave. My phone rings at a decent hour again. Graham. The breath on his end is quieter, like he set his pride on the table and stepped back a pace. "Just checking in," he says. He doesn't fill the space with strategy. He asks if I need anything and waits to hear the answer. Small but new. Older parents will recognize the shift, not solving you, seeing you. We talk about weather, the reading circle, the tomatoes Ruth's neighbor promised. He doesn't mention the house. I don't either. Before hanging up, he adds, "I'll call first next time if I drop by." It lands like a doorbell that works. The mini climax is my thank you that sounds like a green light instead of a guardrail. When the call ends, I stand for a second in the quiet and feel the floor steady under both feet. Progress often whispers. Ellie arrives with a backpack full of markers and opinions. "Can we make pancakes?" she asks like she's asking to build a fort. We crack eggs and make a mess on purpose. Shells in the sink flour on our sleeves. Laughter in the kind of harmony only grandchildren and grandmothers can hold. Older adults know this joy, a small chaos that doesn't cost anyone their patience. Ellie flips a pancake in a lopsided arc and cheers like she just stuck a landing. We eat at the little table, knees bumping, because the room is honest about its size. "This place is cozy," she says, and I nod. Cozy isn't a downgrade, it's a decision. The mini climax is a syrupy hug that leaves a spot on my shoulder I don't wipe off right away. Some stains are proof of the right kind of living. After dishes, Ellie studies me with her whole face. "Why don't you live with us anymore?" Children ask the question, adults cushion to death. I set down my towel and answer plainly, sometimes when people stop seeing you. Clearly, you have to step away so they remember who you are. She thinks, sips milk, then asks, "Did it work?" I smile. Ask your dad. Older viewers know this rhythm truth without drama, clarity, without blame. Ellie nods like she's storing the line for later, the way kids pocket pretty rocks. We color for a while. She draws a house with a big tree and a porch just wide enough for 2 chairs. The mini climax is her small hand slipping into mine as she says, "I like it here." Me too, I think. Out loud I say, "Come back Saturday. We'll try waffles." That night I pull out the envelope with Ellie's name on it and the trust papers tucked behind. This isn't about money. It's about permission to keep her voice when a room gets loud. To choose peace over performance. I write in plain print the way she likes to read. You don't owe anyone your silence. I add 3 memories only she will understand. Our pancake flipped the syrup spot, the way the cottage smells like lemon soap, and new pages. Older adults will recognize the impulse to over-explain. I resist. A good letter leaves air around the words. I seal it and hide it where future me will remember. The mini climax is the click of the drawer closing, and the relief that something important is now waiting patiently, not urgently. Some gifts ripen in an envelope. At the post office, the clerk with the floral scarf knows my name without looking at the slip. "You've got something from the library," she says, sliding over a padded envelope like a small ceremony. I thank her, and for once, the gratitude lands all the way. No rushing past it, no you didn't have to. Older adults know how rare it is to receive without deflecting. On the walk home, the day is modest. A dog sniffs a hydrant. Like it's news, a leaf skates the curb. A child announces a cloud that looks like a whale and is somehow right. I unlock my door and stand in the threshold long enough to understand the lesson. Nothing spectacular happened, and yet I feel thoroughly met. The mini climax is me setting the package on the table and deciding to open it slowly. Attention is a kind of prayer. Later, an envelope arrives in handwriting I'd know in the dark. "Graham," I sit on the porch legs tucked under a blanket and read. No defending, no bargaining, just this: I'm starting to see you again. Not just as my mother, but as a person. I don't know how to fix the years I didn't. I'm trying. Older parents will feel the difference, repentance without a script. He mentions Ellie's pancakes and asks if sometime he can come too. The paper warms in my hands like a cup. I don't draft a response right away. I let the words breathe so they don't fog up with haste. The mini climax is a single tear that doesn't ask for an audience. Some repairs don't need a witness to count. I keep the letter on the table overnight, not to test anyone, but to let the shape of an answer arrive honest. In the morning light, I brew coffee, the way Tom taught me, water just under a boil, patience as the main ingredient. I think about what yes could look like now, short visits, real listening. A porch that fits 2 chairs without crowding either. Older adults know that reunion doesn't mean rewind. It means revision with mercy. I pick up a pen and write 3 lines that feel exactly true. "Thank you for seeing me. I'm here. Come by Saturday, call first." I leave space beneath them on purpose for whatever we might add next. The mini climax is the envelope sealing with a soft press of my thumb. Some things are strongest when they close gently, then open again at the right time. I'll end the way it began, at a table with something simple and heartfelt. A good ending isn't always a triumphant march. Most days it's a piece that fits like an old chair. The spoon that once frozen midair has been set down. The keys that once defined me have found the right lock. The peach tree still blooms. I finally let the peach be. If you've walked with me, you've heard 3 promises take shape. I choose my terms. I am seen, not managed. And I inspire courage, especially for those still learning to speak up. That's the whole story, self-determination being seen, and the quiet legacy of courage. If this story touches something you hold dear, add your own line comment. I choose me and share a moment you chose yourself. Then subscribe to the channel to see the next chapter.